Hey, I'm Otter. This is the Technology Insider, and today we're going to talk about the XiO Cloud Program Connector. So what is the XiO Cloud Program Connector? The XiO Cloud Program Connector is basically a method by which we can interact from XiO Cloud, provide alerts and some maybe system information checks using the system check button from our program. Things that you need. You need a processor with the programming done in it. You need XiO Cloud, and you need a little configuration in XiO Cloud to take advantage, especially around the alerting. So that's what we're going to kind of concentrate on. We're going to concentrate on the things you need to do to be successful with the alerting. So what's the scope? Well, the scope is anything within my system that gives me some kind of status that I may want alerting on can be passed up to XiO Cloud and then entered either into a log, send notifications, or affect the general room health, that green, yellow, red health icon at the top of the page. We can also interact with occupancy, right? There's a maintenance mode. There's the system power, the display power, and the current source. Those are all cool and pretty straightforward. The alerting part requires a little bit of work. So within that, you can have your just basic system, or you may be in that scenario where you've got, the control processor is okay to be on the network, the touch panel is okay to be on the network, scheduling panel, occupancy set, got all those clear. But everything else in the system that uses a network connectivity has to be behind the control subnet. And that control subnet needs to be isolated, meaning that none of the Crestron devices that would normally connect directly up to XiO Cloud can reach it because it's isolated. Without isolation mode from the control subnet, yes, they will report in. We've got that hard firewall here. How do I get some kind of notification and status into XiO Cloud when I'm in that configuration? So you see, it can go from the super light, I just want some more information, maybe on RS-232 device, maybe something that I'm talking to IP that doesn't necessarily have a Crestron certified device driver that shows up in XiO Cloud, or I'm in this other really kind of hard to deal with when it comes from a visibility and support point of view of the isolation mode on the control subnet. And that's where the program connector really shines, especially at the alerting. But with alerting, there's some things you have to do, and from the programming side and the configuration side of XiO Cloud to make sure that you get what you expect out of it. And that's what we're going to go look at. So the theory behind working with alerts and the program connector works this way. Much like in the Fusion days, we have a method by which in programming I can send alerts up. We had to configure Fusion to receive those alerts and act upon them. That same theory of operation applies here. So you need in programming, the scope especially, so the programmer knows what to do, needs to understand what they've got to program and send. Over in XiO Cloud, we have to set up to, one, receive the alerts, and then act upon them and set a priority to them. Same exact thing. So theoretically, one of the first things you've got to do is in the discussion of design and implementation and programming scope for this is decide what you're going to alert on, 2, their criticality, and 3, what exactly is the format of the message. And this is important because the formatting of the message allows us to capture, categorize, and then decide how to act. So starting off with that conversation first in your design considerations, programming changes, or the implementation of this will be critical to success. 90% preparation, 10% execution tends to lead to success. Well, let's pop over into XiO Cloud real quick. So within settings and under alerts, you'll see that we have a new field here. It's called the room button. Let's talk about those alerting feedbacks. I said there was something you had to kind of agree on. And this is one of the things that we did in Fusion was you need to put some kind of one way to catch it to when you catch it, what does it mean, and how does it interact? So we're going to come over here to, once again, the room, and we're going to come to actions, and we're going to add an alert. Now you'll see that from here you get the usual thing, lets us bounce back and forth. Under room status, there's display power, there's a few other system power, check results, and all that. The one I'm interested in and talking about is the program alerts. So when we come down to the program alerts, you'll see that we get something. We get a text value. The text value is something we're looking for to decide what to do and whether to alert or not, right? And here I can say equals, contains, begins with, or ends with. So it depends on what you're going to scrub the message for to determine whether this triggers. So I'm going to say contains, and we're going to start with info. So the word info is, I'm making this up. This is one of those things that you're going to have to agree on in scope of programming for this to trigger. So if it contains info, we're good. Maybe we start with a rule that says, hey, we're going to begin with info colon. And info colon says this is an information message. It is basically a notice. You could change it to say notice just as well, whether there's a delay or not, and the severity, and we're going to add it. Now, once we've added, you'll see that a notice, we're automatically set up to say notice. Yes, it is enabled. Do we wish to enable a notification? I mean, am I going to send a message when I get hit with this? Or is this something I'm just putting in the log for the reasons of putting it in the log? Does it affect room health? Yay or nay? Does it make it green? Does it make it yellow? Does it make, right? Depending on the severity. And once again, severity and affect room health interact with each other. So a severity of notice and enable room health will just basically keep the checkbox green. I really don't need to say that I want to notify myself on this one. So I'm going to say notice. If it begins with info, the reason why I'm throwing it in there is because it's a piece of information I want in the log. I don't want to flood the log here, though. Be judicious about what you're putting here. This must be something that should be known, but doesn't necessarily affect system health. It's kind of like with the system check button when using that. Things you're going to want to put in there if there's an error or a completion or an incomplete are going to be relevant to the failure mode that you were testing against. So let's take another one, and same thing. So under the same basic premise, I'm going to come here, I'm going to hit my program alerts, I'm going to say begins with, and I'm going to say warning and a colon. I'm going to drop the severity notice to warning, and I'm going to add it. And I'm going to say, yes, I want this one to enable room health, and yes, I definitely want it to send me something. I'm going to do the same thing for error and critical, right? But I'm pretty sure you're picking up what I'm putting down. The big part here is that if I'm going to send one of these, the message must begin with that because that's the way I set up the rule. There's enough flexibility in the rules here for you to play around with what you're going to use, when you want to use it, and how you get notified. So here we've got that. So what does that look like on programming? Once again, the commitment on the programming side. And as an example, I'm going to have a trigger. Something in my system is going to trigger this, and I'm going to send that specific thing. I'm going to start with warning colon, right? That's in the string. It's going to get sent. Now, one of the interesting things here is that let's say that this warning clears up. There's a couple things I can do. I can trigger the resolve all alerts. This may not be desirable. If I send this very same string here into the resolve alerts feedback, it'll clear that individual alert. So your code may want to set up for tracking your info and warning and clear those as they clear up so that you can keep track, just in case something goes offline. Okay, it went offline. Well, it turns out it was a reboot. I'm Otter. This is the Technology Insider. Gave me a microphone, gave me a camera, said make a show. There you go.